Hey, this is the C&D channel. I'm Chris, and this is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC On Versus 4, Barry versus Congo. But before I get into that, I'd like to thank my sponsors, GoBusiness123.com and the Marcus Sunglasses Boutique in Laguna Beach. Please support your local mom and pop shops. A couple talking points for this event. Obviously, to check Congo, knockout. Charlie Brannaman upset victory over Rick Story. Mitrione, seeing where he goes in the heavyweight division. Tyson Griffin's move to 145. The Oliveira versus Lentz fight. So yeah, let's get right to it. Okay. First fight of the night, we had Michael Johnson beating Edward Falaloto by TKO in the first round. The thing with Michael Johnson is he's only like 25. He's showing good hands, and he already has that wrestling base. So he's, he has really solid skills in the areas that he really needs to have him. Edward Falaloto, he lost to Anthony Njokuani, and now Michael Johnson. He only has 4 professional fights under his belt. He's not UFC caliber quite yet. He needs to really go back down. Fight in the regional scene or something. I expect he'll be cut. But yeah, Michael Johnson, he's someone to look out for. It's tough to say where his ceiling is, being so young. I personally feel that he should move down to the featherweight division, and I think he'd be a good wrestle boxer type, kind of like Chad Mendes or Tyson Griffin. But yeah, he looked good. Gotta give him a couple of the lower tier guys before really pushing him, though. Yeah, next fight after that, we had Ricardo Lamas winning by TKO over Matt Grice. I didn't even know Matt Grice was back in the UFC until this fight was announced. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC cuts Matt Grice. He lost Shannon Gugarty, Matt Veach, and then did a couple regional fights and came back and lost by TKO here. Ricardo Lamas, he's just kind of like that lower tier 145er. He lost to Yuri Alcantara and David Castillo. Don't really see much upside to him, to be perfectly honest. He's just kind of there. He can beat other lower tier guys, but I don't see much in him, to be perfectly honest. If Michael Johnson moves down to 145, I wouldn't mind seeing Lamas versus Michael Johnson. That would be pretty interesting. Okay, next fight after that, we had Charles Oliveira versus beating Nick Lentz by rear naked choke in the second round. Charles Oliveira is just someone to watch out for. His striking's really good. His jiu-jitsu's really good as well. He actually said that he's gonna make sure this fight's not a boring fight, and it got fight of the night. It was definitely one of the best, probably the best fight of the card. Well, I think it was, and it was pretty. At times it was back and forth too. I know Nick Lentz threatened with a guillotine at one time, and so did Oliveira. Oliveira did manage to drop Lentz as well. The thing that's controversial, of course, was the knee that led to the rear naked choke. There's a good chance this fight will get declared a no contest. And perfectly honest with you, I don't really want to see a rematch. It kind of looks like Charles Oliveira would have won it. Just the way the fight was headed. The thing is, with Lentz, he's shown in the Waylon Lowe fight that if he was losing the fight and then all of a sudden he got a guillotine for the win, so he can always come back and win the fight. But yeah, no, Charles Oliveira, dude. Man, watch out for this guy. I would like to see him fight Joe Lozon next. I think that Oliveira would honestly win, but I just think it's a good fight first progression. Jim Miller is way too much too soon. So, yeah, definitely someone to look out for. Okay, next fight after that, Rich Antonino beat Daniel Roberts by unanimous decision. Antonino made his debut to the welterweight division, and he looked good. Daniel Roberts showed in the Claude Patrick fight that his striking isn't that good. And he's now lost like 2 in a row against Claude Patrick and now Rich Antonino. He took the fight on short notice, so they might, the UFC might give him a call back, but wouldn't surprise me if they cut him, to be perfectly honest. I keep saying that. Rich Antonino's like, he's kind of in his early 30s, so it's really hard to say. I mean, he's not really what I'd call a prospect. He's like really too old to be a prospect. I mean, he's in the right weight division now, and I think he can beat certain guys in this division for sure. He's definitely a solid fighter, but I just don't see much for him. If you want to give Antonino someone like an Amir Sadala, a Tony Ferguson, just some other guys, it'd be a good fight. Rich Antonino versus Matt Brown would be all right, but it's not like I'm unimpressed with the guy. It's just he comes off like he's near his ceiling or at his ceiling already. Okay, next fight after that, Joe Lauzon got a fight submission of the night over Kurt Warburton. Warburton is he has 1 win in the UFC and 2 losses. Lauzon, the thing with Lauzon is he looks, you saw it in like the Satsaropoulos fight or the Sam Stout fight and other fights, Kenny Florian fight too. He looks great in the first round and then he fades later on. I mean, he managed to win in the first round. And he managed to drop Warburton and then get that really slick Kimura. I always like seeing Lauzon win, but it's like he'll beat some lower tier to mid tier guys, and then he'll lose. And then it's the same thing with him in that sense. And which really sucks. I really like Joe Lauzon. I like his fights. He has entertaining fights, win or lose. But, and he's still pretty young, but it's just one of those things where I think his cardio really hinders him, first of all. That is definitely probably his biggest weakness over everything else. Yeah. But, Joe Lauzon versus Oliveira would be a fight I'd like to see. Okay. Next fight after that wasn't much of a fight as Javier Vasquez beat Joe Daddy Stevenson by unanimous decision. Stevenson's done, man. He cut to 145. Looked very unimpressive. He'd stand in front of Vasquez and just kind of wait. He'd wait for him for Javier to go first for some reason. I don't know what was going on with Joe. I mean, he's only like 29, but it's just one of those things where it's just he's not there anymore. I mean, where's the guy that fought like Spencer Fisher, Nate Diaz, the Pellegrino fight, man? He used to go in there, charge at guys, really force takedowns, hit some ground and pound. I mean, this guy, Stevenson needs to be like just great. Now he's like a shell of his former self. Javier Vasquez, good fighter. His stand-up needs a lot of work. His cardio needs a lot of work. He's like in his mid-30s now. He's definitely like a solid mid-tier featherweight. I mean, there's fights for him. If you want to give Javier Vasquez like Tyson Griffin or something, that'd be pretty interesting. Not a bad matchup. I'd expect Griffin to win. There's other guys for Griffin also, though, like George Roop, maybe even Mark Homnick if you want to give him something pretty high up there, actually. Yeah, so. And the next fight after that, Tyson Griffin beat Manny Gambarian by unanimous decision. Really liked Tyson Griffin's outside leg kick. It's really good. Really worked on Gambarian. He did get taken down, but I did see him stuff a lot of takedowns as well. His boxing's pretty good, but I especially like his outside leg kicks. He's been using them in a lot of fights too. It's not like the first time he's ever used it. Tough to say where he goes in this division. It's still building. You got guys like Dustin Poirier coming up. Chad Mendes is up there. Guys are moving down. Kenny Florian's moving down. And who knows what other lightweights are going to move down to featherweight. Really tough to say where his place is, because Manny Gambaryan is actually pretty high up there. And, he's a former title challenger, beat guys like Mike Thomas Brown, Leonard Garcia, and Tyson Griffin beat him. So you kind of have to give Griffin someone like pretty good, maybe like a Eric Koch, maybe even. That's kind of like I don't know if you really need to give him an up and comer. You can do that too, or someone more established. But there's definitely some good fights for him in this division. Gambaryan, solid, really solid featherweight. I'm curious to see if he can make another run for the title or anything like that, or stay kind of like a mid-tier, or even stay within like the top 10 area. There's good fights for him for sure. I know he was supposed to fight like guys like Eric Koch and other guys, but those like injuries happened and he wasn't able to. But I expect him to see him come back, but like I have this feeling that he's gonna like stay a mid-tier fighter in the featherweight division. To be perfectly honest, I keep saying that. Okay, I gotta stop saying that. Okay, on to the main card. Matt Mitrione beat Christian Morecroft by KO. One thing I did about that I liked about Mitrione here is that he was slipping a lot of punches. He has a great 1-2, man. Sneaky left hand. He's a southpaw. He utilizes a jab and inside leg kicks, and I really like that. He's not just looking for that one power shot, and of course he moves well for the division. He doesn't plod. The thing is, he's like 32, so it's really hard to say where he should go from here. I think he should fight Czech Congo personally, maybe Roy Nelson, maybe Dave Herman as well. Someone around the mid-tier of the division. And yeah, he moves really well, which is a lot better than most of the division. It's, heavyweight is such a thin division that like someone that like moves well in the stand-up is actually ahead of the game in a way as far as striking goes than a lot of these other heavyweights that tend to be more plodding, do a lot of like one punch KOs instead of like jabs and whatnot. It's there's a lot of debate. The thing with Mitrione, he's a fan favorite right now. He's 5-0. He's beaten like what I would say 3 UFC caliber fighters, but they're all like lower tier. Morecraft, Beltran, Haig. So yeah, I think someone like Czech Congo would be next. Don't give him any higher. Don't give him like Mir or something. If you want to maybe give Mitrione like Schaub, even Schaub seems kind of high at this point. Maybe Roy Nelson. One thing about Mitrione, he does have cardio. There's still issues with his cardio, and there's still issues with his takedown defense. But he's really interesting because he's a prospect. He's like 32, but still a prospect in the heavyweight division, and he's knocking guys out. He's showing certain skills that many other heavyweights don't have. So I'm very curious to see how Mitrione does. I'd love to. Ideally, I want to see him fight Czech Congo next. Okay. Next, right after that, Matt Brown beat John Doomsday Howard by unanimous decision. The Immortal One beat Doomsday. One thing, man, John Howard This is like 2 or 3 losses in a row now. He might be. I think it's 2 actually. I think he's gonna get cut after this. He was going for a single leg. He doesn't really know how to complete takedowns really well. He looks kind of lost. He like grabbed a leg, kind of like muscle his way to a takedown. I mean, I didn't really see great technique in his wrestling game. I just really wasn't surprised by him. Matt Brown, I always like blue-collared fighters, and Matt Brown is no exception to that. One thing I really liked is he was utilizing the jab. That was great. The other thing is he showed improved wrestling, which is really good, and his jiu-jitsu looked good as well. He has submitted guys though, like Ryan Thomas by armbar and whatnot, but he's also been submitted in his last 3 fights. So it's good to see him get this win. I really like that when Howard would like shell up, Brown would like hit a jab combo, go in, throw some throw like knees from the inside and whatnot, and some of the knees actually connected with John Howard's face. Considering that Matt Brown is a very like lanky guy, I mean a jab should definitely be like one of the first things in his arsenal. He fights wars of attrition, which is really good. You don't have to worry about Matt Brown's cardio, which is really cool because the guy is that type of fighter that'll fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. And even with John Howard, I mean John Howard was like his 3rd or 4th opponent change. He was supposed to fight like Rich Antonito, Matt Riddle, so good for Matt Brown. I always liked the guy, but I mean he's like a gatekeeper to the division right at this point, which is fine. Which is fine. He's the blue collar type fighter. Okay, next fight after that, Charlie Brenneman beat Rick Story by unanimous decision. Charlie Brenneman took the fight on like 1 day notice. He won with superior wrestling. One thing about the fight is it wasn't very exciting until the 3rd round when Story almost got like the triangle chokes on Brenneman. Brenneman would get the takedown, just do enough to stay on top. Rick Story, someone needs to tell him that the closed guard is dead in MMA. You cannot just close your guard, hold the guy, and hope that the ref stands you up anymore. It's not gonna happen. One thing is he had an opponent change, so it kind of sucks. You're preparing for Mark Wart, who has more of a does a little more stand up. And Mark Wart wrestles too, and also has good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But now you're fighting a guy that's, as shown in this fight, was mainly a stand-up guy. It was a really lose-lose situation for Story. You can't really pull out of the fight. You agreed to fight Mark Wart because it's good for your career. When Mark Wart got cut from the UFC, they gave him Brenneman. It's like, well, should he please the bosses, or should he, take this high-risk fight with not much reward, or, take the fight? And it just happens. One thing about Story, though, he has been taken down by Thiago Alves, he's been taken down by Charlie Brenneman, and he's been taken down by John Hathaway. It's one of those things where it's kind of like with George Sotiropoulos against Dennis Seaver, or Anthony Pettis against Clay Guida, where a guy's really hyped, and then, they lose in pretty, it was unanimous decision, but it's a loss that really exploits these holes and really shows that it's like anyone who mentioned them in the mix, or a potential title contender, you kind of expose this hole, like Sotiropoulos, great jiu-jitsu, good boxing. When he fought Seaver, he couldn't take Seaver down, and it's like, whoa, his takedowns aren't that good, actually. And his boxing is good, but not great. you know. With Pettis, you know, everyone was pretty hyped up on Pettis, and he was going to fight the winner of Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard. Well, you know, he got out-wrestled, and, you know, it was just one of those things where it's like, I can see Gray Maynard easily out-wrestling Anthony Pettis or even Frankie Edgar, you know. If Guido was able to do it, I can see guys higher up the ranks being able to do it even better. With Rick Story, it's John Fitch could probably take him down. Josh Koscheck would probably take him down. GSP would just have his way with Story. I mean, there's a time when Brenneman hit him with an overhand right and just followed that up with a takedown. You know, this fight's pretty interesting though as far as progression goes, because Rick Story, I mean, yeah, you know, he's gonna have to win a couple more fights to be back like in contendership. With Brenneman though, I mean, he's lost to like Johnny Hendricks, who's by TKO, he lost to Johnny Hendricks, but Hendricks lost a Story, and it's one of those things where like, yeah, even though Charlie Brenneman beat Rick Story, I can't see Brenneman beating Thiago Alves, who Rick Story did beat. So it's one of those things where it's like, where do you really place him? Do you place him kind of high up, or do you place him more in the mids? Do you want to give him someone like a Matt Brown? That'd be pretty good. Maybe Brenneman versus the winner of Lytle versus Hardy. That'd be a good fight as well. So you can kind of give him somewhere like those fringe type guys too. So that'd be interesting as well. Okay, and the main event of the night, Czech Congo came back from pretty much getting knocked out himself to beat Pat H.D. Barry. Congo's a good mid-tier guy. He's really durable. He got dropped by like Frank Mir and didn't get knocked out. He got staggered by Travis Brown. That's the thing with Czech Congo. He's always been known to be durable. And Cain Velasquez was just punching him like with so much volume, and you know he would muscle his way back to his feet. But with Pat Barry, I mean, he almost won the fight. There's some things about Pat Barry I like, but he's getting this syndrome, kind of like Gonzaga, where it's like he starts winning the fight and finds a way to lose it. Good examples, Tim Hague. Okay, beating up Tim Hague, even head kicked him. All of a sudden gets guillotined. Krokop, I mean, he dropped him twice. Barry dropped Krokop twice, and obviously, you know, he wouldn't go to the ground and pound him some more. When he did drop him, ended up losing the fight by rear naked choke. One thing with Barry, I mean, I like that Barry was aggressive. I like that he actually tried to wrestle. That was really cool. And he looks like he's trying to improve. I do appreciate that with him. Like, he's trying to improve. There's just the fact that, oh, wow, he's trying to take down there. He's trying to go forward more, you know? Instead of in the Beltran fight where he was just kind of sitting back. That was cool, you know? But the thing is, you know, he pounced on, he dropped Czech Congo, pounced on him, dropped him again, pounced on them some more, and then with his hands down, went after Congo. And it's, you know, it's somewhat forgivable because it's like, well, you hurt this guy this much, you know, how can you really, you know, no one's going to expect you to get knocked out. I mean, that's what was so amazing about this, is that Congo was on the brink of defeat. No one expects him to be able to do this. It's very Scott Smith, Pete Sell in the sense, you know. But it's at the same time in MMA, you give a guy an inch and they're gonna take, you know, they're gonna take a foot, you know. Pretty much, if you exploit even the smallest hole, or if you give a guy the smallest hole, it's gonna be exploited in MMA. It is what it is. That's usually how it works. If your hands are down, you know, and you're unguarded, you know, even if this guy's wobbly, you gave him that opening. That's just the way it works. That's how MMA has always worked in that sense. So yeah, I expect Barry though to get someone like a Christian Moorcraft, Aaron Rosa, John Olaf, another heavyweight that's coming off a loss. Can't see him really cut or anything like that. It's, he got caught. It's really exciting though. But yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my UFC on Versus 4 post-fight analysis. If you have any comments or anything below, or just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you very much.